Hello, and welcome to Creative Catchup, a podcast where three friends catch up and chat about running a creative business.
Each episode, Mel, Natasha and Crixus will be diving into a topic that has come up in their own creative practice.
We'll be sharing our experiences, both ups and downs, struggles and successes, and hopefully give some advice that will help you along the way.
So join us for Season 3, Episode 6, as we chat about whether or not you need a formal education to make it as a successful illustrator and artist. We'll be sharing our experiences, the pros and cons, and the bearing it has had on our own art careers. Hello!
Hello!
Hi!
Today we're going to be chatting about whether or not you need a formal education to make it as a successful illustrator and artist. But before we get into the conversation, we're going to have a little catch up because it's been a couple of months since our last episode. So, Natasha, Crixus, what's been going on in your side of the world? Or not really side of the world. What's been going on?
My side of the country.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, I'll go first then. What have I been doing the last 2 months? Since we last spoke, I went back to Suffolk for a week or so, and I have been, I had a shop update, so I've been packaging a lot of orders, I've been doing a lot of admin, I've been doing my usual Patreon and YouTube content, and I've been working towards our exhibition. Well, how about you, Crixus?
I actually don't remember what was 2 months ago, but I think I was working on the bird book, and then I also had shop update with greetings cards, and then I went to France. Then I went back, then I tried to work a lot because now I'm in Latvia and it's a little bit quieter now for me. What about you, Mel? How are you been doing?
Well, so I think I had just started on my calendar preparations. I had a bit of an epiphany, I think, in August about that. I was going to do like 12 separate images per month, like I have done, but instead I decided let's just scan all my sketchbooks and put all my sketches into the calendar. So that's what I've kind of been working on, is the calendar, and then it's been released, and also framing up all of my originals for this joint exhibition that we're going to be having in October.
Yay!
Shall we mention where it is?
Yes.
Right now, before we really get onto our topic for today.
Okay.
Mel is like showing all of you a poster. You just can't see it now, but she's like showing it.
I'm going to read it out so it's very clear. Everyone knows what's happening. Okay, at the Coast Colour Canvas Gallery, we are going to be having our first joint exhibition. It's going to be called Nature's Palette, and it's going to be featuring original art. There'll be prints, Z-clay prints, art prints, and then cards and postcards. You can come and see all this fantastic work from Saturday the 7th until Friday the 13th of October, 11 till 4. And it is at Roskilly's on the Lizard Peninsula. And you can find out more about the gallery on Instagram. Just look up Coast Colour Canvas Gallery. I think that's it.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
That's good. I just wanted also quickly to mention, I really love your calendar idea that you added all of different illustrations, and also you have prompts. So that's really brilliant.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
I love the prompt idea.
Yes, it's so good.
I thought that was such a genius idea for a calendar. It's sort of like an interactive calendar, isn't it?
Yeah.
More than a calendar.
Yeah, motivate people if they wanted ideas or whatever throughout the year. Well, I've been working from prompts this whole year, so I think that's probably why I thought, why not put them in the calendar? Because it's helped me. I know it's helped me a lot.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It certainly makes your calendar stand out from others, doesn't it? Because I haven't seen any that have this.
Yeah, me too.
Oh.
When I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, that's really huge. And I know you said like you haven't been posting from social media that much before, but I think that was like a huge announcement, and I hope your calendar sells out. Yes. How do you say it? I hope it sells out.
Sells out. Yeah. I've just put in the big order for it as well.
Oh wow!
Oh, have you? Oh, well done. That's
Yay.
brilliant. That's really good.
Okay, right, let's get on with the topic then for today, our conversation today. So we're chatting about whether we need to have a formal education to make it as a successful illustrator or artist. So first up, I think we're going to share a bit about our background and whether we are self-taught or whether we've received a formal education in art. And when we talk about a formal education, we're talking about university level. I think that's what we're kind of chatting about. So, Natasha, if you're right to share your path.
Okay, so I think that I'm the only one here who is self-taught. And I studied art at GCSE level and I got an A. They didn't do A stars in my day. I'm very old. And I went on to take it at A level. I started doing my A levels. And due to various different factors, I actually dropped out of the sixth form. So then I got a job and I loved art. I knew I would love, in an ideal world, to do something with my art. But I didn't know how I was going to do it. This was really showing my age. This was pre-internet. So, I couldn't figure out how I was going to make it happen. I thought about perhaps going back to art college in my, like to do a foundation course or something in my early 20s. But then I started exhibiting in local exhibitions. And I had a little bit of success with that. And I just did it kind of on the side for years as I had other jobs as well. The other jobs were to earn a bit of money while I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And so when the art started taking off very, very slowly at first, I just decided, okay, I'm going to go with this. I'm not going to go to college or study it anymore. I'm just going to see where it leads. And then, it led to this. So, so I'm definitely, I think you would say I'm definitely self-taught. I mean, obviously I've had some tuition, but nothing at university level.
Can I ask a question? I think this could be useful for someone who is not from the UK. Can you explain what is A-levels and foundation course?
Okay. So, when you're at school here in the UK, you take GCSEs when you're 16 years old. If you do well in your GCSEs, you can go on to higher education. So you go on to something, well, it was known in my day as the sixth form. I don't know whether it still is.
I think it is in some places.
Oh, right, okay. So you basically do another 2 years of education at school.
Okay.
So you do A levels, they're the next exam level up from GCSE. So you study for 2 years, you take your A levels, your exams when you're 18 years old. And then from then on, you would go to college or university. And I think, generally speaking, you tend to take an art foundation course. At least you did when I was that age. That was the thing that tended to happen. You would go to art college and take, I think it's just a year, isn't it, a foundation course. You kind of figure out what you want to do.
So it's after A levels, right?
So it would be after A levels. So you'd be like 18 years old.
Okay, so A levels is something like high school, approximately.
Yeah, you're essentially still in high school. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
Clear now. And I think for some listeners also it will be, now I see.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing this as well.
It's okay.
What about you, Mel?
Obviously, I'm in the UK as well, so I followed probably a similar path to Natasha with GCSE art, and then I did A-level art, although I did my A-level art outside of the school for the first year and then back in the school. It was just a bit odd because my parents didn't want me, advised me maybe not. I think they always thought I wouldn't do art.
Really?
I was determined to do it, so I kind of did it as an evening class, and you can do that outside of the school time. So I was doing 3 A levels on top of the A level art outside. But then in my last year, which was year 13 or upper 6, I dropped one of the other A levels and made our A level in school. That's what I ended up doing it there, because I definitely wanted to do it. So, and then after that, I did a foundation year, which is usually done in your local town. And that was I just loved that year. It was just a brilliant year because it was so different to my school experience of art. It introduced to all sorts of different ways of making art. So you had like fashion, photography, just drawing, regular drawing practice, painting. It was just so many different things that I hadn't really experienced in the field of art, and it was just so exciting for me to do. And then after that, I kind of thought, well, the next thing would be to go to university. So we were encouraged to fill in a UCAS form and then look for universities. And the one that I chose was Chichester, and I applied to do a BA in fine art. And I did that, and that was a 3-year course. That course was actually, although it said fine art, I then majored in installation and textiles, sculptural textiles. And it was probably it's nowhere relevant to what I'm doing now.
Yes. It's art, but it's different, right?
Yeah, it was definitely more conceptual. But I'll probably get into that a bit more once we talk about whether it has helped us or hindered us.
Yes.
So that's just basically what I did. Yeah.
Okay.
How about you, Crixus?
So I was studying in Latvia, so we have a little bit different education system. So we usually have 12 years, and then we do like undergrads. But after 9th grade, you can also do high school with like touch of some professional inside. So I was doing high school connected with art, and I did textiles there. It was instead of 3 years doing high school, I was doing 4 years because it was connected with fine art and painting and textiles. So that was before undergrads. And then I did undergrads in, I think it's in English, it's something in between printmaking and graphic arts. So it was 4-year course. And in between 3rd and 4th year, I did Erasmus, which is just exchange, your exchange student for half a year. So I went to Falmouth University and I did second year's half year. No, like in second year, I did half the year of that program, and it was in illustration, just like classic illustration. And yeah, then I finished the undergrads and I also did masters. It's like one more education. So, and that master's program I did was 1.5 years, but because of COVID, it lasted 2 years. And it was master's in children's picture book illustration. And that was in Cambridge in the UK. And I think in total, if I counted everything right, I had 12 or 11 years of education connected with art.
So you finished your last course in the last 2 years, is it? Did you finish?
I finished in 21, but like in January. So it's like almost 2.5 years now since I finished masters.
Yeah. I wanted to just say, reason why I'm sometimes a bit vague on my course is that it's now 20 years since I did that course.
Yes. So it's a lot of time. A lot of the time has passed.
That makes me sound really old, doesn't it?
I was thinking I sounded really vague actually when I was telling you about my story, because I was kind of thinking I need to bring the story down into kind of like a nutshell.
No, I think you did it really well, Natasha. I just felt I was like very rambly because I was like, oh my goodness, I can't actually
I don't think
remember.
You're rambly.
No.
I know. I do you know, I have this problem too. I'm thinking I have got things in the right order, and that was how it was, right? Because obviously, you know, life is more complex than, you know, I could talk for an hour about why I dropped out of school and all of that kind of stuff, but we're not here to talk about that. So
yeah, but it's good, I think, for people to know the time frame of things as well, because I know for me that 20 years ago I feel like I was in a completely different place and a different person even, and of what I wanted, and
So I probably started making art the latest because it was how much time ago now, like 2009 I think I did start doing art courses.
That's amazing.
So yeah. Okay, so Mel, does it have any bearing on where you are now with your art career, illustration practice, or how do you feel about that?
I would say it is I'm in a completely different place to where I was at the end of finishing my course as where I am now. For one, I work as an illustrator. That's my profession, that's my bread and butter. And obviously the course that I did wasn't illustration based at all. So yeah, it probably doesn't. And I had to find a way to that after graduating. After graduating, I felt very lost. I was very confused as to what I should be doing. I knew that I still wanted to do something art-based, but I had no idea really where or what I should be doing. And I think a lot of people do generally maybe feel a bit lost anyway after immersing yourself maybe in a formal education.
Yes.
Because you're suddenly like in the world and you then have to make that transition, and that can be very hard to do.
And choices as well.
Yeah, choice can be overwhelming, but then also because you haven't got the structure of someone telling you or advising you, it can be very hard then to know what direction to go in, even though you know you want to do something creative. So it took me a while. It took me a while to find the illustration path, but that's my shortened answer.
Yeah. Well, I feel like listening to you also, I feel a lot of people can relate, just studying one thing and then just, well, sometimes going in the similar path but doing something else, but sometimes just completely changing the profession or what they're doing in their practice.
Yeah, well, I can't think of, I mean, I don't really keep in touch with probably anyone from my course, but sometimes I hear names and I hear maybe what they're doing, but I don't think many of them are or did continue with their art practice, which is kind of, is interesting to know.
Oh, interesting.
Well, actually, when I started doing undergrads, I felt I'm not in the right place because it was more like, even though it was printmaking, it was like, do you know St. Pete's Academy of Arts, which is like kind of super traditional academic fine art university? And I felt it was the same in Latvian Academy of Arts. And I felt I'm not in the right place because I wanted to do more illustration. And that was like more like from 50s, 60s kind of style with like I don't know actually how to call it in English. In Latvian, it's stai grafika, which is graphic, but with like in galleries, but like in that kind of format. So I was completely doubting in that stage. But I'm actually happy that I stick to it. And if I'm thinking about like bearing I have now, I don't know, because at the same time I'm thinking like I already talked about this with Mel, but sometimes I feel like maybe I didn't need to have all of this education. Like, why did I had it? But at the same time, I don't know who I would be if I didn't have this education. Maybe I would be a completely different person. I wouldn't be in Cornwall. I wouldn't film probably. And like, I don't know. It's just like, one thing affects another one, and it just kind of all connects. So it's really hard to kind of think, and I try to not regret the choice I made. But with like the master, because with undergrads, I didn't need to pay for my education. I did undergrads for free because there was limited spaces. So if you get in, you're just super lucky. So I think it was like 4 people for one place when I got in, and I was in just before the line. and I was like, okay, let's just do it. But yeah, the masters, they were quite expensive. So, but I still don't regret having the education, because who knows who I was before and then.
Yeah, it's very hard to think about things like this, isn't it? Because none of us know the alternative, what we would be if we'd taken a different path. It's impossible to say.
Yes, because this is the path that we've taken.
Yeah.
Yes, right? And then it's like, what if we change? And, like this alternative reality, what if like all the things then changed as well, and you're like in completely different place?
What was that film, Sliding Doors?
Sliding Doors. I was thinking of that when Crixus was talking. Yeah,
I think there's also butterfly effect or something like that, and some other as well, where something changes and then all the events change as well. Okay, well, Natasha, I have a question for you. As a self-taught artist, do you sometimes wish you received a formal education regarding art? Were there some moments in your time as being artist?
I would say, honestly, I don't regret it. I feel like maybe this was the right course for me. It was just it's really hard to say. I don't think I was in the right place at the time to go to college. I have I wouldn't say regrets about it, but I do wonder whether it would have helped me by making connections, or it would have given me some opportunities in some way. But I feel like maybe the way I did it was the right way for me and who I am as a person and my personality. So I'm quite self-motivated and kind of self-reliant. And I don't know why I find this so hard to talk about, because I'm having to unpick lots of very, difficult things from the past, I think. But no, essentially I don't regret it, because I think that I am on the right path for me as a person. I don't think there's one right way or wrong way. I think some people really thrive in the education system, and other people thrive outside of it. I think I'm actually one of the people who thrives outside of it.
But there was no like moment when you thought like in later years about going back?
No. I mean, I was very conflicted when I was younger and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't sure which path to take. Do I go back to college? And if I do, is it going to be the right thing for me? Am I going to enjoy it? Am I going to get something out of it? Can I even make art a career? There were all these, I don't come from a family of people who have done something like this. I would say that I come from, generally speaking, a very working class family, and being an artist just wasn't the type of job that someone in my family has. So I kind of felt a little bit of an outsider in that way as well. It was a little bit strange to be somebody who wanted to do something that wasn't the normal job for somebody in your family. And so I was very unsure of myself. I feel one of the great things about getting older is that I feel so much more confident in my decisions now. Whereas back then I was very like, should I do this? Should I do that? I didn't have much confidence in myself. I had a certain level of confidence in my work because obviously I would have had to have pushed myself on and make a career. But it felt very rocky, you know, it was a very rocky start for me. It took many, many years before I could make a living from this. And in fact, from the age of 16 to the age of 33, I had other jobs in order to bring in some money while I was, you know, trying to get my art career off the ground. So would I have succeeded more quickly had I have had a formal education in art? Maybe, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I'm happy with where I am now, so I have no regrets. I don't know whether any of that made sense. It's really, I don't know, I find certain topics really hard to talk about, and this is one of them. And I don't really know why I find it so hard to talk about it, other than I think it takes me back to a time in my life where I wasn't very happy. And I don't really want to think about that. I much prefer my life now.
I think as a young person anyway, it's difficult, isn't it? Without, you know, if without difficulties that are already there, it's hard enough anyway, isn't it, to work out what you want to do. And sometimes it can feel so final when you're young. You can say, right, you've got to do this, you've got to choose.
Yeah, this is how I felt.
It's like choice of your life. You know, like you're making decision for your rest of your life. And then it's like, oh, but that sounds like this is like such a huge pressure.
Like young people should stop their education at 18 and then go off and do something else for like 5 years, and then they can come back and decide what they want to be and make the decisions then, because I feel like it's too young to be deciding, like when everyone was deciding, oh, I'm going to go to this university or this is what I want to study. And it's amazing when you think people are making these decisions when they're in their teens.
Without having actually life experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was a bit like, well, if I go to art college, is it going to be right for me? Am I going to even enjoy it? At that point, I wasn't sure. I knew that I loved painting, but I didn't know whether that was the right decision for me. And as it turns out, you know, things started kind of, I mean, if I say taking off, it makes it sound like I was quite successful early on, but I wasn't. But yeah, there was enough going on that made me think, okay, maybe if I keep on plugging away at this, I can actually find a way to make a living from it. But yeah, it wasn't really until I was in my early 30s that I truly started being able to concentrate on my art and make a living from it.
So let's talk then about, you know, the pros and cons of receiving a formal education versus being a self-taught artist.
What do you feel, Mel, that you've gained from having a formal education? What are the best parts?
Okay, I did make a list.
Ah, prepared.
I thought I should, otherwise I'll be rambling all over. So I'll start with the pros. I do have cons as well. Right, pros. You'll be introduced to a creative group of people who you might be able to call, I guess, your creative tribe. You may not, though, get on with everyone, but you know that everyone has that as a main goal. They want to be creative, they want to be artist. And that's quite nice to be surrounded by, because your conversation, it's easier to talk, you know, because you're talking about something that you're all passionate about. Yeah. You have a studio space. This wasn't so much my foundation year, but when I was at uni, they usually give you a space you can call your studio, whether that is just a desk. It's not normally a room, it's normally lots and lots of desks in one massive room. That's my experience anyway. But it means that you do have a space that you can go to if you want every day to do your work outside of your living space. And that's quite nice to have. There are equipment, there's resources on hand, because universities usually do spend a lot on high-tech equipment. They usually have a lot more things that you could try out there. They have libraries full of technical stuff, camera gear, all of that stuff. It's great resource-wise, but you have to seek it out yourself. You have to be self-motivated, and you do actually have to go and ask for things. Although it is there, you would still have to be quite self-motivated to use the stuff. So yeah, you could probably learn a lot through being at uni in terms of developing your skills, but you do have to do a lot of the work yourself to do it. There's also exhibition opportunities. So yeah, generally you'll get told of exhibitions that are happening. Maybe there's more opportunity to do group exhibitions together. There's art fairs. Again, that kind of information that, it takes a bit longer to find out, you would have that on hand. You could also study abroad, like Crixus did. There's courses that offer that as part of the programme.
Yeah, even they paid me for while I was in there. It was amazing. Like, I didn't need to pay with my money. They had like a fund, and they paid every month for me to study there.
I think for us, we also did have opportunity to, go abroad just on a week or two. Unfortunately, I got really ill. I'd booked the tickets and everything to go to Barcelona. It was an art trip to Barcelona. And then I got ill before and I had to cancel it. So that was my third year trip, I think, that I was really looking forward to, and then it got cancelled. Well, I had to cancel it. They still went, but so you've got those kind of opportunities, to do something that maybe you wouldn't if you didn't do it. And also I had part of my third year, there was a vocational aspect to the course. I don't know if all courses give this, but I was placed in a artist gallery. I think it was 1 or 2 days a week. I would then I actually worked with a special needs group of adults, and we developed an exhibition together. So it was just to give you some kind of real work situation. So that also may be offered to you on whatever course you go on. So those, I would say, are probably my pros. Should we talk about cons straight away?
Yeah, talk about the cons.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so as I said, there are lots of things that you could probably do, but unless you're self-motivated or even directed or told that those things are available, you're not going to probably touch them. And as someone who maybe hates asking for help or is very shy about asking for help or just talking to an older teacher or adult in that environment, you can find that those opportunities slip by. So I think what you said, Natasha, about people taking time out before university, go and find your feet, go and do a real job, grow in confidence. That would have been so good for me to do, rather than me go straight into uni. If I had maybe done, just been in the world a bit more and then come back to it, I may have then realised the opportunity that was at my fingertips that I didn't make full use of. I did use like the print room, and I did try some things out, but probably not as much as I could have. And that is probably just down to me not really knowing how to ask for things. And I think sometimes that just is something that you need to grow into as well. My course was like on installation and textiles and more conceptual stuff. It was really fun. It was like great to learn some different techniques, but I don't know. I don't think it was preparing me for life after uni. Real helpful business advice. I don't think I was given, although I had the vocational aspect, that was just very limited to that work that I was doing. So I feel like there should have been something more general just to help us prepare ourselves for work. And the time I was at uni was just probably at the start of internet. So we had the internet, I remember, and we did receive emails, but there wasn't any of this kind of, marketing yourself or social media stuff, none of that. So that probably will be different now for people who are starting courses now. But
yeah, I will update this as well.
But I know that for me, I just didn't feel like I really had a grasp of being able to present myself. Like, how do I find the opportunities? Where do I look for the opportunities? I knew how to kind of put together a body of work, but even then, it was more to the brief of what I was being asked of to do, rather than working maybe on something that I really loved to do, because I felt like I had to basically please the tutors. That's kind of how it felt in a way, because you're trying to obviously get a good grade, and so maybe I was looking too much at, well, what would they like to see? What would give me the grade, rather than thinking, well, actually, what do I like to do, and what is my authentic voice? What is my voice? I don't think it was so much. So, I didn't keep sketchbooks. I actually found them very restrictive, because I don't know why. I just wasn't fired up in that way. It was all about how can I get the best grade, rather than actually, well, what is my voice? And obviously maybe at the end of that time, although I had produced work, it maybe wasn't really me authentically. And there is something, actually. I had a friend, she started off on the same course as me, and she was a painter, and she did these beautiful, paintings that were actually, inspired by nature and the surroundings. And I saw little by little her confidence just kept being knocked, because the tutors would criticise her work so hard that she would feel undermined, and she'd feel like her work wasn't worthy, and she would feel like it wasn't, I don't know what the word is. She just didn't feel like it was the right subject matter to be looking at. So she basically lost her confidence. She stopped painting. She actually dropped off the course completely and ended up doing social studies or something instead.
You see, this is what worries me.
This is a big con for you as well, right?
Yeah, because I've heard this story in different ways throughout my years of being an artist, and then it makes me glad that I didn't go on to art college, actually, because I do wonder whether, who was telling me, I can't remember who it was, but they loved to paint in a certain way, and the tutor was just really kind of disparaging, and I don't know, it's just that side of it is a big con, I think, for me.
I think the universities, they want to build their reputation, and I think certain universities will want to have, this is what we're known for. We're known for pushing boundaries and for, doing sensational work and, doing this. But at what expense? Because, you will lose then. Not every student will want to do that or feel passionate about doing that. And that's what I saw with my friend. She didn't want to do kind of groundbreaking work. She just wanted to paint a lovely landscape. And I was like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, why not do that? Why can't she just do that and still gain in her skills and in her techniques? Because that's one thing as well that I didn't see so much. I mean, I was doing textiles. I got taught how to do felting. I got taught how to make paper and some things, but I wasn't really taught a lot more technique. And I know in the painting department, they didn't get kind of oil painting tutorials or things like that. That was still very much something they had to discover themselves.
This is interesting because you would think
that's what you would learn.
Totally. But yeah, Mel, I heard this from somebody else who was a friend of mine a while ago. This is going back several years now, and she went to art college, and I once asked her, do you think I would have benefited from going to college? And she said, do you know what? They don't really teach you that much. She said, I feel like all you're really doing is that she said the plus points are that you get access to trying lots of different materials and different ways of working. She said, but they don't really tutor you that much. And she said, what you're doing in practicing your painting every day, she said, that's pretty much, what you need to be doing is just practicing, because she felt like she hadn't had a great deal in the way of actual tuition. And so I thought that was interesting. Yeah. So, Crixus.
I wrote some of the notes while Mel was chatting, because a lot of pros are my pros as well. Well, of course, like I think every equipment or something you take, no teacher is telling you to take them, so you have to have the initiative to do so. And when I did the printmaking, we had huge working rooms, like with screen printing equipment, like super professionally, where you can expose, where you can clean, when you can print. We had like lithography, stones, mezzotint, etching, all that, like so many different printmaking techniques. And I think I remember when I was studying there, I was like, it must be cool to be a teacher, but then because when you finish the courses and you're teaching, you can still use everything.
That's what I used to see. I just used to see my tutors using the equipment.
Yes.
There weren't any students using the equipment. The teachers were using the equipment.
Yeah. But that's a huge pro if you're a teacher in art school, because, a lot of resources. In my university, there were some courses I could take as an extra from different programs. So I took like photography course, and I was just renting really high-tech like tripods and cameras to practice, which was really nice. And the libraries as well were nice. So that is something I wrote. And also, like, I know in the UK it's different situation, but in Latvia we don't have free art or any gallery or like museum. We need to pay. But because we were art students, we had free art gallery to different art galleries. Yeah. So that was really nice. Yeah. I always used it. And
that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, and Erasmus was huge for me because although I was studying, I was working as well from 16 to, I think, 25. Yeah. And I was working all the time while I was studying. But when I was on Erasmus, I left the job, and it was like such a strange feeling that I'm not working, I'm studying, and also government is paying me to study. It was like I was like on top of the world.
Actually, you just reminded me, Crixus, there is another pro, all the discounts you get. So I remember my student rail card. That was used. I used that a lot, student rail card. Yes. And there are other discounts that you could get for all sorts of things, for software and that kind of thing. So that was another pro.
Oh, yeah, that is a huge pro. I also remember even like in Erasmus that the bus ticket was reduced. In Latvia, we had art supplies discounts, which is also really nice. But I also worked in art supply, so there was also a discount from there, which is nice. And the critiques, so in a positive way this time, there were some good critiques from some of the tutors, because I think when you are studying, you always find the tutor that you kind of resonate to, or like feel the connection, because there are some tutors you just don't want to talk a lot, or like they are not on the same wavelength. So I think everyone was like trying to find their tutor. And also when I did masters, probably in the UK it's more common, there was critiques between each student as well. It wasn't the case in Latvia, but here it seems a lot of the critiques were from each other, like as a student group. And I found this was really interesting change, because in Latvia we don't do those things. And also about the space, we don't have space in Latvia. So when I came to Erasmus and I had like my own table, I was like, well, this is something. And everyone's like decorating their table. So it was like, oh, wow, it's so strange. Usually I just, in Latvian Academy of Arts, just like find a corner somewhere. So yeah, and the cons, even though you said you were like learning longer time ago, before like the internet picked up, I still don't feel that there. I feel all the art education, they're lacking business/marketing
totally
course or something that can kind of, like, when you finish the course, you're not lost, you're not like naked, you feel like you know what to do, because and also like on confidence. So maybe there should be like some course that kind of goes through contracts, goes through like different options, like kind of give you hope, because I think sometimes you are unconsciously already starting to think in like last course, like what I'm going to do. And then you finish and you have no idea what to do. And I feel it's so common. I think because the education in art, a lot of teachers are just teaching art and that's it. But I think what the students would love to hear is also what to do outside, because that's like what all of us will do after. So that's like huge con for me. And even with the online, like even with having education, high-end education, still after masters, I didn't felt like, I know what to do, I know where to go, I have all the contacts in the world. I didn't have any. So it's like, that was...
So even after you went to the Bologna book fair...
Yes.
Did you not feel like you didn't have, contacts or publishers? Do they not put you in touch with publishers or?
Well, there
agents?
were some successful stories. I was just not one of them. I think it was like maybe from all of us, like 20% of the course got some kind of deal. Rest 80%. Either they got the deal themselves or they just went completely different direction.
It is so important to know what the expectations are, aren't they, before you do take on anything like this.
I think like my expectations were different, to be honest, when I started, and when I finished I had different. But now I'm like, I still don't regret that I did the final education. It's just... now I know, and I feel I actually have gotten some messages because I did the course and I filmed video on YouTube. There were some people just chatting that they will start the course and what to expect, and I said like, you need to work a lot by yourself and be okay if something doesn't go the way you think it will go, because it's not like after the course everyone has like some kind of deal, and that's just the reality. I think I also feel like not per se in masters but in undergrads, I think what I didn't like, so it's like in con side as well, is that sometimes we just all of us has the same task, and I really wanted to go more in depth, because like in the UK, I know that there are some courses where there are like, I don't know, 100 people in one course. In Latvia, in Academy of Latvia, because we got the free education, it was limited amount of spaces. So in my graphics art course, we were 13, so 1-3. So it was just small course, and I wish they at least like then did like approach us differently, because we weren't like a lot as well. And also like the cons you mentioned, Mel, as well, about the critiques and negative feedback and how it affects us. I had some teachers like that as well. One of which actually said like, because the teacher heard my nickname, Crixis, I had like that nickname then as well. And in Latvian it means like crumble or small piece. And they said that then I will always be small. So I was like, how could you say it? So, I guess in okay, it's a con, but in that regard, maybe there's this song, "What doesn't kill us makes us stronger." So
Stronger.
I think now I have like this nickname, and I'm remembering it as like an opposite effect. Not like in spite of, but like no, it doesn't affect me that like they maybe thought it should or something like that.
I mean, I'm not against kind of crits per se. I think they are important and helpful, especially if they're constructive.
Yes.
And, you know, it's always good to have people around you who can honestly appraise your work. And that can be something that is hard to find, particularly as we're used to everyone just giving everyone praise all the time. Because we're afraid of offending someone, but sometimes you do need someone to just give you proper honest feedback and just say, maybe you need to rethink that, because sometimes you don't grow otherwise. So, but it's just when it is just really kind of negative and nitpicky and
not even connected with work, right? It's just
or a way forward. If you're just giving someone negative and nothing else, then that doesn't help someone. Well, how do I move it forward? How can I improve? Or because that's really, I guess, why you do want to get an education, is that you want to learn, you want to improve, you want to get better. So that's really what should be at the heart of any crit that you get.
But really what they were saying to Crixus was really just quite insulting. And what's the word I'm looking for? Not vindictive, but you know, it's not helpful. It's not helpful in any way.
It's not helpful for critique.
Yeah, it's being nasty just because they can be.
I remember like in Masters, I had really awful critique. I actually cried after that critique. But then after a month, I was like, this is the best critique I have received like in my life, because then in the beginning you work with your emotions, but afterwards you can reflect without being emotional. And then you're like, this was so on point. And even now, like that like affects how I work in a way, because that was a critique about proportions. I was starting to draw more characters, and I realized a lot of my characters look older than they should be. And she was showing me real academic knowledge about the proportions and how like I should depict them. And now I'm like, this is so good. But at that moment, I was really like, I was just thinking this is the worst day of my course or something. But there are some critiques that are really harsh in the beginning, but then you reflect and you're like, this was really good.
I guess that I forgot to say one more con is the cost, the actual cost of putting yourself through uni. It's expensive, isn't it? And I think, is it 27,000 now for an undergraduate course?
I don't know,
I think
because I got undergrads for free. But I paid for masters 10,500, I think. But that was for a year and a half. So
I think it is
Yeah,
27,000.
that's huge. And then there is like interest rate, and because I still haven't paid my course,
Oh, I'm never going to pay mine off.
and it's like
Just
did you
not going to
check?
happen. I'm going to get to 50 and go wipe it off.
Did you check? Did you check the how far it has gone? Because mine has like already for these 2.5 years. I was checking and I was like, oh wow, it has risen a lot.
Yeah, the interest. Yeah, they just add the interest on. They keep adding the
It's
interest
crazy.
on.
It's
Yeah.
like
I just like, well, it's the student debt, and that's
Yes.
it. You can't do anything about it. I do wonder whether we though should just answer one more question about that. If someone is thinking about receiving a formal education, or how do you know if doing a degree is right for you?
oh yeah, that's a good question.
I think there will be people who still will want to do
Yes.
one, but I think you really have to think about why you're doing it. And obviously there will be some courses which would probably be great, and I'm sure there's some people or listeners who have had a good experience. If you are one, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, write in the comments if you are self-taught artist, if you are thinking about studying, or if you have studied before. We are really curious.
I have got some questions that I think you should ask yourself if you are considering doing a
That's
degree
good.
that I think maybe will help in your choice.
Can I say a quick advice for me? Just follow your gut. Whichever decision you're making, just follow your gut. Mel, now to you.
Yeah, think about, are you doing the degree for the right reasons? What are the reasons for why you're doing it? And I think really you should be motivated and passionate about the thing that you want to study. And don't do it just because it seems like the easiest option, or maybe what you think you can do. I think you really need to be passionate and motivated to do it, because as you've heard, you need to be self-motivated on the course. The course isn't going to give you everything you desire. I think you've got to still put the work in when you do the course. So you do have to be self-motivated and actually do want to do it. And then the other questions are, what are you expecting to get out of it? It's so important that you know what it is that you want from this course, and then you're able to ask questions of the different courses that you see. You can research it a lot easier, and you'll know whether that course is actually going to meet your expectations. In order to do that, I would say find out students that are maybe on the course that you're looking at, ask them, stalk them, send them messages.
That's funny.
You can get arrested for that.
In a nice way. Just let's not, be creepy. But if you're serious about doing the course and you find someone else is doing that course, then I would ask them questions about it. What are they learning? What are they gaining from it? Because you're going to invest a lot of money in it, and so you need to know what it is that you're buying, and whether it will serve you.
I was going to say, one of the pros of being self-taught is no student debt. Obviously.
Yes, there we go.
That's a good pro.
It's a very big pro. Yeah, it's interesting because it's actually one of the questions I get asked the most. Whenever I do a Q&A or something like that, people always want to know whether I'm self-taught or whether I went to college. And I'm quite interested as to why this is, because I always think you should just judge somebody on the art they're creating. Does it matter if they were formally educated or not? Because the art speaks for itself. The art is the important thing, isn't it? I don't think it really matters. If you're looking at an artist's work and you can't tell from looking at that work whether they were formally educated or not, does it even matter? But it's something that people are absolutely fascinated by. And I just hope that I can give some hope to people out there that you can make a good career as an artist and an illustrator without having had the formal education.
Yeah. Well, definitely, because I feel like I'm both. I had the formal education, that didn't work. I then had to self-teach myself illustration.
If you've got talent, just go for it.
You can learn and you can teach yourself as well. I think you can develop those skills.
You can. You just have to have a real desire to want to do it. That comes first, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The desire to create something comes first, and then you can teach yourself. And it's honestly, I think so much of it is just about practice.
Yeah.
Like just that day in, day out, practice. And I think quite a few people, from what I hear, they want shortcuts. You know, they want it all. They want, for example, the career that I have or Mel has or Crixus has, but they want it immediately. They don't want to have to do the year. They don't want to hear that you had to do like a decade of hard work to get there.
Yeah, like who wants to hear you need to do like 12 years of art education? Honestly, it sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, they just want it there and then.
But I think, well, the shortcut I could think of when you mentioned the shortcut, I was thinking, like learning how to market yourself, doing more business. I think I'm like self-taught business person.
Oh yeah,
because I didn't read it anywhere.
I think we all are. Yeah, and that probably is the key, really. I think the sooner you start sharing your work, even if it is just documenting your journey. It doesn't matter, right? If you do it from day one, because you get in a habit of sharing your work and keeping a document for yourself, whether that's a blog or whether you do it on video, or I don't know how you would do it, Instagram, whatever. It will be good for you to do because it will document your journey. You can see how you grow, how you progress, but on the way, you probably will pick up people and you'll pick up an audience. And as you get better and better, then more interest will grow and people will be interested to see your journey. You'll be an example to someone else, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line. Yeah, and it's never going to be an easy path. I think that's the one thing we've learnt from this conversation. Yes. There's not one straight path to a creative career. It's not, it just doesn't happen.
Don't follow your friends who are going to that university. If you are going for education, don't just follow your friends because you might have completely different interests. If your parents are completely against it, also I don't know, that's hard because I think what we didn't talk about is what if someone doesn't support you in the direction you are going. So for me, it was I had green doors, although none of my relatives are artists. And my mom was just yeah, go for it if you really are into it. So, but I know a lot of people who are just following someone else. So I think it's really important to follow yourself. And it can be hard, but I think you can just manage it if you truly know what you want to achieve or where you want to go. And just enjoying the journey as well, right? Whichever it was, just learning by yourselves or going to education. You can, if you want to learn something, it doesn't always need to be formal education. You can learn by reading books. You can also watch some YouTube videos, and follow someone on Patreon, or you can also do Skillshare courses, or Domestika. I don't know if I say it right.
Yeah, Domestika.
Yeah, and other online classes which are so short but full with juicy information. Or do private lessons as well. You can do private lessons following artists and just... Yeah, I think that could be also not shortcuts, but other ways where you can learn. Because even though we are either self-taught or received higher education, we can still do those things to learn more, because it doesn't like stop. Like when you finish the course, you're still learning, right? Even now,
I think,
and in the future.
I was going to say, I think this is one of the things that I love most about an art career, is that you never stop learning. And every day it's exciting because there's always something new to learn, isn't there?
Yeah.
And, what more could you wish for than that? Doing something you love and learning along the way, I think, is just perfect. And I think it's the ideal time that we're living in now for somebody to be able to make a career as an artist or an illustrator, because
very true.
there's just so much out there.
Yeah.
Like Crixus was just saying, with the online classes, the YouTube videos, you have social media, you're in touch with people. I feel like one of the things I missed out on through being self-taught was that lack, like you said earlier, Mel, where you have a tribe around you, like your creative tribe. I feel like I really lacked that when I was younger. But now, due to social media and Patreon and YouTube and everything else, I feel like I've got this amazing community of artists around me. Even more so than I did when I was just exhibiting in like local exhibitions or whatever. Obviously, you're in touch with people then, but I feel like I'm meeting more kindred spirits now. And that's through the online world, which then becomes, it kind of filters into your real life as well. So, I feel like it's a really good time to become an artist and to build your career, because everything you need is out there. It's at your fingertips, isn't it?
It is.
Even business advice, you can look up so much stuff online.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
And be a self-taught business person / artist. But also, like, this made me, when you chatted about this made me think, I also want to mention, it's never too late to be an artist. I heard so many comments on my YouTube page, on Natasha's page, on Mel's page, that they just started making art again after 20 years
I have
of
loads
break.
of these people commenting.
Or 30 years, or just started from I don't know. And I feel there is no age where you start or began or something. I think the journey can start in whichever place, and I think that's also really beautiful, because if you start art later, you probably have, how do you say it in English?
Yeah, like life
experiences which you can transform, into art.
Yeah, which in turn makes the art far more interesting. You need to live a little in order to create good art as well, I think.
Yes.
So, what are you waiting for? Get on and do it.
Get off your butt and pick up a paintbrush.
I hope that you're listening and painting at the same time.
The time is now.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you're, 50, 60, 70, 80 and beyond. Yeah. The great thing about art is you can never be too old to create art.
Yes.
You just get better.
Brilliant. So, time for the listener question chosen by Natasha.
Okay, so today's question comes from Sonia, who says, how do you take good photos of your art for your online shops? And do you edit them in Photoshop? Thanks a million. So what do you do, Mel?
Just get good light. Good light is the best thing I think you need to do, and make sure your backgrounds are either plain or non-distracting, so that your artwork takes... I can't think of the word. So your artwork takes centre stage, and and then I just would tweak it in Photoshop, and just maybe the contrast or the level or the curve. Curve is quite a good layer to tweak, because it helps you then get a good balance.
But you scan a lot of your work, don't you, Mel? Rather than take photos of it?
Oh, no, I guess it depends. Does she mean product shots or actual making products?
Maybe both.
product shots obviously for the shop would be done just with a camera, but if I was creating products from my work, I would scan it and then maybe clean it up in Photoshop.
I tend to take photos with my Canon camera, and I always take them in natural light. So I wait for a day with really good light, but not direct sunlight. So I always make sure it's an overcast day, but still fairly bright. And I'm lucky in that where I live, we have very big windows, so I can do that indoors, but you could always do it outdoors as well to get more light. And then I only take them into the app that comes with my MacBook Air, which is Photos, and I do all of the adjustments in there, and that's how I edit them. And I have a little tip actually for product photography. If you don't have a nice backdrop to take your product photos against, so say for example you're wanting to, photograph greetings cards or a print and you want a nice backdrop, I tend to use the floor in my studio because it has floorboards and it always creates a nice backdrop. But I also have something called photo boards, which are kind of like a photographic reproduction of a really nice backdrop, like a wooden backdrop or a marble backdrop. And you can get those and you can move those around, so they have the benefit of being able to, you can take them wherever the light is best.
So you could take them outside.
Yeah, you could, yeah. So just take them where the light is good. But I always photograph with natural light, because I just feel like it results in a sharper, kind of more accurate image. So, yeah, that's what I tend to do. How about you, Crixus? What do you do? Do you scan or photograph?
If it's like for prints, original art, postcards, greetings cards, anything like flat image, I tend to scan because I'm not the best with taking pictures. Although I did like this photo course in university, which I remember there they said the best time to take a canvas picture, like of artwork, is outside on a cloudy day.
Yeah.
No sun anywhere, because then it's sharp shadows. I remember it's like in my head, like, but I tend to scan. But if I need to take like product pictures of something that is like 3D or something, I just try my best to edit it. But now I'm like better. Before I was really worse. But now when I'm taking pictures with camera, I'm checking the previous image and then changing the white color balance. So the picture already is semi-okay before I use it in Photoshop, but because I think it's quicker to change the settings while you're taking the pictures rather than putting in computer and then spending like 2 hours on that image. At least that's what I recognized.
Lots of advice there. Thank you, Sonia, for that question.
Thank you, Sonia.
And thanks so much for listening and tuning into our latest episode. We hope you'll join us next time on our Creative Catchup, when we'll be chatting about
building an audience and marketing your work.
Find us on YouTube at Creative Catchup or Instagram at creative.catchup.
And 3, 2, 1, stay creative. Really on tune. I think like that. It's late.
It is late for you, isn't it? Yeah,
I'm gonna stop recording.
Oh yes, what time is it there?
It's 7:30.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I'll stop.
Oh wait, I was
okay,
quickly.
Right.
I was answering. Yeah, I was answering all the comments from podcast newsletter, and there was one comment.
Oh yeah,
that suggested Tony to create an app when if you work too much, there is like dinner time notification. And I
Good idea. You could just have Tony flashing up, going, "Dinner time."
Now this could make some money.
And also, like, there was a suggestion that Tony could come and chat about productivity, which I actually think that could be really good chat, because he is like really good with like management and time. So yeah.